All right, thank you for joining us again on Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place by helping us lock up the bad guys. I'm Chris Wright, along with Calhoun County Sheriff Matthew Wade.
Always good to be on the show, Chris.
And on the show today, we're going to be talking about storms and severe weather and such. That's going to be the big topic on the show a little bit later on. But we've still got, after the storms that came through, we've still got a lot of rain in the area. It looks like there's going to continue to be some, and that really affects the way we drive, or at least the way we should drive.
Absolutely. You know, people, it's just a fact. It rains, there's accidents. And most of those accidents can be prevented if you slow down a little bit. People follow way too close, and it's raining, and they try to jam their brakes on this highways, 431, these other places. And when it's raining, you lose traction. You hit another vehicle, you know, cut your lights on, wear your seatbelt, slow down, and give you some space between each other.
Check your tires as well. If you don't have any tread, you're going to be hydroplaning.
Absolutely.
And I've always heard as well that obviously there are dangers that come with the heavy rains, but sometimes the most dangerous is when you haven't had rain for a while, and then you get a little bit of rain that just brings the oil up to the surface of the road.
You know, when it hadn't rained in a long time and it rains a little bit, the roads get really slick. And of course, we've had a lot of rain here lately. But, you know, the oil on the road versus hydroplaning through a puddle, Quintard's bad at having water standing on the road. You know, if you hit that water, don't jam your brakes, just drive through it, let off the gas and just drive through it. There's just a lot of little tricks, but nothing beats slowing down, giving yourself some room, you know, I'm notorious for being late, but give yourself a little time. I'd rather be late and get there than have a wreck and hurt yourself, hurt somebody else. Of
course, you see those puddles on the side of the road, and sometimes you end up driving through those, but you never want to drive through water that's standing on the road. If you can't see the bottom of the road, don't drive through it.
We are under a flash flood warning for the next 24 hours in Calhoun County, and this is, of course, this is Tuesday, but we have people just a year or two ago went through standing water, and a bunch of cars were lost, and even roads that has standing water, some places in rural parts that rains like this does flood, and people will drive through it, but you never know when that one time it's a little deeper than normal, and you're putting yourself at risk, and first responders who have to come get you out.
And it takes less water than people think.
Absolutely.
Let's thank our viewers that have helped us continue to find people.
4 arrested this week, 4,509 people put in jail, all because you were willing to help us. Thank you so much.
All right, we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup, and we're going to talk about safety in the severe weather situations on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hilton with the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office. You need to know how to identify when you are being scammed. You can unwittingly become involved in a money laundering scheme. Your activity in this will identify you as a money mule, meaning you are moving money for someone involved in criminal activities. These activities are credit card fraud, lottery scams, romance scams, even the Social Security scam and other types. The money could also be proceeds from drug trafficking and human trafficking. If you are asked by someone to open a bank account in your name to process or transfer funds in any fashion, do not do it. These offers could be under the guise of work-at-home jobs or even an online romantic relationship. Other methods to move money is also by wire transfers, loadable money cards, Western Union, MoneyGram, and even the mail. If you do this, you could become entangled in their crime. Break contact with this person immediately. For more information online, check out the websites fbi.gov or ftc.gov, or call me at the Sheriff's Office, 236-6600.
Okay, it's time for the Most Wanted segment of Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Let's show you who's on our lineup this week. This will be the first half, and then we'll have some more for you here in just a few minutes. We start this week with Sean Cochran of Scottsboro, wanted in Calhoun County on a failure to appear warrant for possession of marijuana first degree, possession of a controlled substance, and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Jonathan Pardon of Talladega is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft of property, fourth degree. Jeffrey Fuller of Munford is wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Jaquan Blakeney of Atlanta is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for breaking and entering a vehicle. Donald Lowe of Piedmont is wanted for child support. Mandy Johnson of Alexandria, wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. It's the first half of this week's lineup. If you've got information to share, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name, and you could get a cash reward of up to $1,000. All right, we will have the second half of this week's lineup coming up in just a few minutes, Sheriff, but we need to talk about severe weather and how to prepare for it and how to react if you're not prepared when it hits and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. You know, 3 people lost their life in Pickens County this week, and I'm sure that most of those three people probably thought that nothing bad is going to happen today.
Yeah. Well, Michael Barton is with us, and he's prepared all the time, the director of the Calhoun County Emergency Management Agency. It's your job to be prepared and make sure that we're prepared. And how did we do this time around in Calhoun County?
Well, I think, you know, as the sheriff said, we saw loss of life in other parts of the state, but thankfully in Calhoun County we didn't, nor any serious injuries. So I would attribute that to people's preparedness in this county, that they took the message in serious and they took action.
And I got to pause for a second and say we need to attribute a little bit to this guy right here, going into a house where a woman was trapped in her home.
Well, you know, and we weren't going to tell anybody about that. The media found out, so I wasn't trying to bring that to attention. But she was in the house. She was buried. A tree was on her. You couldn't see her unless you got down and looked through the rubble. And, you know, she was very lucky. And, you know, just nobody else got hurt. Her child was in the home with her. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just thank God that she's okay. And the house, they've got the house cleaned up already in the sense that it's half gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just totally, half of the house is physically not there anymore.
And I know you wanted to mention as well that there was somebody else that responded to that too, that hasn't gotten as much credit for it.
You know, with this, you know, being the sheriff, a lot of times people gravitate toward him, but there was an off-duty Anniston officer there, Russell Garrett, you know, and I wanted to make sure his name got put out there. He was an off-duty. He heard the commotion. He drove his personal Jeep up, and he was in there helping as well. So, you know, it takes a community to help everybody, not just one person. And, you know, we all work together for the greater good. And when everybody was in there, they were just trying to save that woman and help that woman and her husband and her child. You know, they lost everything. You know, it's a new story to everybody else, but to them, their whole life has been altered. Yeah. But thank God they're still alive to be able to put the pieces back together.
Now, in a situation like this, where we've got damage to homes and stuff, obviously we want to be good neighbors. We want to do what we can to help the people around us. We also really need to be very careful about what we're doing, don't we?
That's right. You know, there's systems in place to be able to help people. We have an organization called the Voluntary Organization Active in Disaster. We call it the VOAD as an acronym for that. But they're nonprofit organizations that come together to help people in times of need. Just like this family that the sheriff was talking about, you know, they've lost everything. And so how can we help them? Well, people that may want to help and contribute, you know, they can work through the system we have in place and those organizations to be able to get help to these people, you know, in their times of need.
If we were to happen to come across a house where something like that is there, and we say, I hear yelling inside the home, I need to go in and help this person, what are some things we need to be looking out for?
So, you know, people, they'll do what they have to do in those times, you know, but, you know, you've got a lot of hazards in that situation. You've got trees and debris down. You've got power lines that could still be hot that are tangled up in that. And so, you know, in public safety, we've always taught to be part of the problem. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right? Well, and so, you know, in doing that, you've got to look at all those hazards and make sure that it's safe for you to be able to enter.
And that's one of our biggest concerns was there was standing water in the yard, power lines were down, the house, trees in it. You know, first thing I asked the gentleman that was in the house, I said, "Where's your power bonds?" You know, and I went and cut the power off, which was a hazard, you know, dangerous to do in itself, but at least it was cut off in the house. There were the electrical lines of the house itself was in that room, dangling down, not power lines, but the power to the house. So I asked him if his house had gas. He said it does. So I'm thinking gas, electricity, things that can kill you that you can't see. Not to mention the falling hazards and the tree that's on the house or falling debris from the roof. But you know, those are things that first come to my mind. You know, I was worried about electrocution.
That's right.
And thank God that didn't happen. You know, but
did they designate? I believe last I heard that was still being attributed to straight line winds in Calhoun County.
That's right. We have talked to the National Weather Service about that specific area and what was going on in that storm, and they stand firm that it was straight line winds. They had just previously issued a severe thunderstorm warning for that storm, and all indications are it was straight line winds that took trees down.
I know there's some folks in Sachs that are going to be swearing at the TV right now. So I saw a tornado.
That's right.
And I'm not going to say they're wrong, but the official word from the National Weather Service is straight line winds.
Exactly. And we took those reports into consideration and conveyed that to the National Weather Service of what the citizens had thought they saw, and relayed all that information. In addition to all the storm damage across the county, we sent all that information into them. They looked at it and compared it with their radars and did their scientific thing, and that's their determination at this point.
And of course, it really doesn't matter, other than the public needs to remember that it doesn't have to be a tornado to be deadly serious.
That's right. At the end of the day, you know, people's houses are damaged, people's lives are totally disrupted, so a storm's a storm. In the aftermath of it. But in the preparation of it, it's the same, that, you know, a severe thunderstorm or tornado can have devastating effects. So we have to be prepared for any and all of it.
All right, we need to take a quick break. We will be back in just a few moments here with the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here we go with the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Justin Hotchkiss of Anniston is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance, illegal possession of prescription drugs, possession of marijuana second degree, and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Amber Warren of Anniston wanted for failure to pay for receiving stolen property first degree. Jordan Owen of Jacksonville wanted on a failure to appear warrant for unemployment compensation violation. David Mobley of Jacksonville wanted on a failure to appear warrant for fraudulent use of a credit card and theft of property, second degree. Jalen Tavius Johnson of Jacksonville wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Dwayne Goggins of Jacksonville wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft by deception, first degree. Matthew Yarbrough of Jacksonville wanted for failure to pay for possession of a controlled substance. That's our lineup for this week. If you have information, please call Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name. All right, we'll have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show, talk about some property crimes in just a few minutes. We'll have our crazy criminal of the week as well, but right now it's serious business, trying to make sure that everybody's prepared for severe weather. Michael Barton, the director of the Calhoun County Emergency Management Agency, is our guest. And we do have shelters around the county for people that don't have a safe place in their home.
That's right, we do. We have a number of shelters in this county, and so people need to be aware of where those are at, and they need to know that well in advance before there's ever even a chance of a storm.
And you know, think about not just where you live, but also places that you find yourself on a regular basis.
That's right. We encourage people to know where their safe place is at home, at work or school, and wherever they play, wherever they have recreation at. Know where those safe places are at, and don't wait until there's a chance of severe weather. Know every day, because you never know when something may happen.
And my wife will appreciate this. Shopping is part of it too, making sure you've got the things that you're going to need if something happens where you don't have power or other things for a little while.
That's right. We just have a number of citizens in this county that have been without power for 2 or 3 days. Some of them, have gone that long without it. So being prepared with flashlights, being prepared with some food and water that you don't need any electricity for to sustain that is important, that we all have that preparedness kit in our homes and in our businesses or schools, and our other places that we may be.
Maybe a can opener that doesn't plug in.
That's right, or just pop tops, some type of packaging that it's easy to get into without any type of tools to assess. And what we encourage people to do is put a go bag together. Have all that in a backpack that could last you up to 3 days. Some water, some food for each person in your household. Think about folks that may need assistance, that are your neighbors or your family that may not live right next to you, but make sure that you help them prepare as well.
And of course, we're talking about being prepared for the next time, but there are people right now dealing with the effects of this time. What can they do if they need help?
So if people have been affected by this storm here recently, they can call the number 211, and the operators are set up there to take those needs in and help direct them to resources that can give them assistance. Or they can go to the United Way of Central Alabama. We've got that set up right now as our disaster recovery center, and they can show up there and talk to them about what their needs are, and they can try to help find the best fit for their needs.
This confuses me with these little 3-number
Yep.
calls. I can't get used to having just 3 numbers to punch in, but it does work.
It does work, and it makes it simple that 911's for emergencies, but in this area 211 is a good number for non-emergency things, but still when people need help. And so they can direct you in those resources. We're in touch with them and making sure that they have the information they need to help people.
All right, so what do you think is the most important thing that we can do? If you had to pick out just one thing that every household in Calhoun County would do to be prepared for future emergencies, what would it be?
Probably the most important thing is to have a good source of notification, right? To know that it's coming. Be aware of your surroundings. You know, we had a good lead time on this particular storm system. National Weather Service started forecasting it about 5 days in advance. That's like a hurricane,
Yeah.
you know, notice, which is unusual in Alabama that we have that much advance notice. So there's really no reason not to be prepared in that sense. But a lot of times we don't have that much notice in Alabama. So have multiple ways of receiving that notification. You know, everybody depends on their cell phones nowadays. We have a text messaging system in Calhoun County. You can text 888-777 and text the word Calhoun EMA, and you'll get automatic notifications to that.
And make sure your phone is turned on. Our
That's
oldest
right.
is a freshman at Alabama, and so we're texting him Saturday morning, and he's not replying. And then they say on TV that this is headed towards Tuscaloosa. It'll be there in 10 minutes. We're trying to call, and it's going straight to voicemail. If his mama could have got him,
Oh, I bet.
the storm would have been the least of his worries.
That's right. That's right. So.
I'm sure he got an earful.
Oh yes, that's very important. Have that phone on, but make sure it's charged and stays charged leading up to an event like that. And maybe have an extra battery pack. I carry an extra battery pack in my go bag in my backpack so that if my phone goes dead, I can plug it in and not be dependent on electricity. Another thing on the notification is the traditional NOAA weather radios. They still work. They still are fairly reliable. So have those in your house and have them turned up. Make sure they're programmed before the storm. We have a rush at our office, or a rush of calls at our office every time there's severe weather predicted, which is a good thing that people want to get their radios programmed, or they've just went and bought some. But now's the time to buy it right now while there's not any severe weather, you know, in the near future. Do that then. And then third, you know, TV and radio, those are also good means. We encourage people to have 3 different means of communication, but they need to be redundant, self-sufficient, so that if power goes out or one of those ways fail, that you have the other way to get that notification.
Yeah. All right, so 3 different ways of getting the notifications. Make sure that you are weather aware.
That's right.
That's the biggest thing. Well, Michael, thank you so much
Yes,
for this. I know it's been a busy few days for you.
It has, but that's what we're there for, is to, you know, help people prepare, but then also help people recover after the event. And so hopefully we're making a difference out there.
Please pass along our thanks to all of your staff there that worked extra hard over the weekend.
Definitely will. And I would say our public safety, you know, we talked about the rescue that was performed that the sheriff had part in, and other first responders, but all across the county we had 90 reports of trees down at different locations. That's a lot of volunteer firefighters responded to, deputy sheriffs responded to, police officers, public works, highway department. So all that group of first responders, they did an exceptional job this past weekend, and it's a great team.
Well done. All right, we need to take a break, and we will be back in just a few moments. We'll have the crazy criminal of this week here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Okay, let's see if you can help us out with some property crimes committed recently here in Calhoun County. On January 8th, an orange Honda Foreman ATV was stolen from a residence on Annie Lou Drive in Jacksonville. On January 10th, a local resident received what they believed to be a check from Publishers Clearinghouse. An unknown caller instructed the resident to cash the check and return a large amount to an out-of-state address by FedEx, which he did. Later, he received another call to send more money to another address. At this point, the resident realized he had been scammed. On January 11th, a white 2008 Ford Explorer was stolen from a residence on Choccolocca Road. On January 13th, a local resident reported they had searched the internet to purchase a parrot. A website was found, an order was placed, and payment was made by a wire transfer during December of 2019. To date, the customer has not had any contact from the seller, nor has he received the bird he offered. A web search shows the website Jordan and Chloe Bird Farm as a scam site. If you have information about these cases or any others, we would appreciate you sharing that by calling Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
At the beginning of the show, Sheriff, we were talking about driving on the wet roads and making sure that your tires still have some tread on them. Now, if your tires don't have enough tread, we don't recommend that you break into a tire shop to steal some that do.
No, that's not going to get you. You're not going to have to worry about driving no more.
We had an individual that did break into a tire shop, and you can see him there, and he ended up calling the law enforcement on himself while he's in the shop because one of the racks fell over on him.
Well, if you see the clothing he has on, that's what we call a turtle suit. That is for suicidal inmates, so it seems like he has some other issues going on, so maybe he can get some help and get straightened out.
Hopefully he will. Yeah. It is appreciated when the people that break into a business call the police and hang around until the police get there.
Absolutely. You know, if he's going to break in the place and, you know, get the tire rack, we appreciate those. It makes it easy.
It does. All right, well, that's all the time that we got for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not underneath a tire rack after business hours on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.